unmute করিব রে সব তুমি এখন ওই আচ্ছা ওই তুমি আমার বাড়ি মুকা
Okay, now we are going to start. Amal Singh, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. So now it's 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time. So exact time to start this webinar. So good morning to all.
Good morning.
Respected Principal of Sinarmara College, Dr. Anjan Saikia. Respected Principal of Nandalal Borgohai City College, Dr. Sanjeevananda Borgohai, sir. Respected Inaugurator, Dr. Suresh Kumar, Assistant Director, Indian Council of Historical Research, New Delhi. Respected resource person, Dr. Catherine N. Butcher, Maria Curie Fellow and Expert in Alternative Education. Respected Dr. Do Thu Ha, Professor, Faculty of Oriental Studies, Vietnam National University, Hanoi. Respected Mrs. Pallavi Devi, Assistant Professor, Department of Law, Guwahati University. Respected participants from different countries. First of all, I, on behalf of IQAC Sinamara College and IQAC Nandalal Borgohai City College, welcome you all to this online platform. It is a matter of pride to announce that more than 2,500 people has registered for this webinar. And on this occasion, I convey my sense of gratitude to all the dignitaries and participants. Dear participants, we all know that COVID-19 pandemic has affected almost all sectors of an economy, be it agriculture, be it industry, be it education, health, tourism and hospitality, and so on. Among all these sectors, the sector which is affected most is the education throughout the globe. Nearly 90% of the total enrolled students all over the world are sitting at home at this time. Bricks and mortar institutions are converted to digital platforms. And now, previously we are organizing seminars, conferences in our campus, but today we are organizing webinars. So lots of changes has come due to COVID pandemic. And we know that there is diversity in education system throughout the globe. The education system of Europe is not same as that of India. Education system of India is not same as the Southeast Asia. So there's diversity in education throughout the globe. And as a result, there's diversity in problems and opportunities related to education in this pandemic period. And hence, today in this webinar, we had resource person from Europe, we had resource person from Southeast Asia, and we had resource person from India. So from all these resource person, we will be able to know the problems which are faced by the education system throughout the globe. The various places or various regions of the globe are facing different types of problems, and problems are also creating some opportunities. but they are diverse. And from the resource persons of Europe, Southeast Asia, and from India, we will be able to know the diverse problems and opportunities of education system in this pandemic period. So welcome you all. And now we will start the webinar. To start the webinar, I request our Honorable Principal Sir to give his welcome address. And by welcoming all you all to this online platform, he will introduce us to this very theme of international webinar. Please welcome Dr. Anjan Saikia sir.
Namaskar. Conveying my deep sense of gratitude, I would like to welcome to each and everybody who have assembled on this gracious international webinar organized by IQAC of Sinamara College in collaboration with IQAC Nandalal Borgohai City College of Dibrugarh, Assam. I am very much thankful to our esteemed inaugurator of this webinar, to Dr. Suresh Kumar, Assistant Director, Research, Indian Council of Historical Research, New Delhi. I am also conveying my sincere honor to our honorable invited resource persons, respectively, Madam Catherine N. Bachar of London, an expert in alternative education, Madam Dr. Du Thu Ha, Professor in the Faculty of Oriental Studies, Vietnam National University, Vietnam, Madam Pallavi Devi, Assistant Professor in the Postgraduate Classes of Law, Guwahati University, Assam. In this beautiful moment, I would like to convey our special thankfulness to Dr. Suresh Kumar sir and Professor Pallavi Devi Madam, who have introduced respectively Dr. Du Thu Ha Madam of Vietnam and Dr. Catherine N. Bachar Madam of London to us for this international webinar. I have also expressed our solidarity to our esteemed principal friends, faculty members of different higher education institutions of the globe, researchers, learners, scholars, students who have joined in this international webinar organized by us. Learned scholars, the adopted theme of the international webinar stands not only highly prudent, bearing far-reaching impact, but also thought-provoking during the COVID-19 pandemic period. The theme is the post-COVID global education, challenges and opportunities. In the light of this perspective, it is my opportunity to outline in brief in this vital issue in my welcome address. The pandemic has forced the global academic community to explore new ways of teaching and learning, including distance and online education. This has proved challenging for both students and educators who have to deal with emotional, physical, and economic difficulties posed by the illness while doing their part to help curb the spread of the virus. The future is uncertain for everyone, particularly for millions of students scheduled to graduate this year who will face a world crippled economically by pandemic. We do not know when normalcy will prevail, but we can expect that enlightened day will be emerged very soon. It can be argued that existential event for humanity that will change the nature of globalization and structure of international capitalism. At the same time, it is also to be noted that higher education is in transition from a system that operated on a welfare state philosophy to the market-oriented one. The transition is not complete. The higher education system, the world over, is in a flux, handling between the conflict interest and varying personal powers of the state and the market. While each level of education faces its unique challenges, it is higher education segment that may end up by necessity triggering a learning revolution. Universities are distinctive in that their students are both old enough to handle the rigorous online works and technologically savvy enough to navigate new platforms. The real challenge lies for the institution in which they have enrolled. Can traditional campus-based universities adapt this by choosing the right technologies and approaches for educating and engaging their students? The success and failure that unfold should give us all a better grasp of what is possible. More fundamentally, COVID-19 is causing us to challenge deep-rooted notions of when, where, and how we deliver education, of the role of colleges, universities, importance of lifelong learning, and distinction we draw between traditional and non-traditional learners. Anyway, our invited resource persons, Dr. Catherine N. Batchar of London and Professor Du Thu Ha of Vietnam, will reflect a very brief idea on the post-COVID global higher education in the advanced countries of the world. Respected scholars, turning to our country, it is seen that technology can enable different teaching methodologies and also allow teaching a large number of people across the country. In a country like India, we do not have enough teachers or easy access to good institutions. We should therefore adopt a focused systematic program of using the power of technology to enable learning. However, while technology is enabling, it can also be limiting, especially in India, where basic access is a challenge. Not every student has a computer or fast streaming internet at home. This leads to issues with attendance and participation in online session. A survey by IIT Kanpur revealed that 9.3% of its 2,789 students were not able to download material sent by the institute or study material. Only 34.1% of them had internet connection with well-versed or streaming real-time lecture. Another survey conducted by local circles amongst 25,000 respondents found that only 57% students had the required hardware, computer, and printer at home to attend online classes. In fact, most of the students of the country have no provisions for online teaching and learning. Our students are mostly belonging from rural and low-income group of people. So we cannot afford such type of education. In a country like India, in the backdrop of economic perspective, it is seen that poor become poorer and rich become richer. Hence, the government has no other alternative way in this regard within the limited technological structure. Dear friends, now we come to our native state of Assam. It is also argued that our state Assam is flood affected state. Almost 23 districts of the state out of 33 districts have been facing severe flood problem since a couple of periods. Under this critical juncture, how is it possible to continue online system of education here? What will be the alternative solution of the colleges located in this region? These are the vital questions in this regard. Our invited two scholars of our country, Dr. Suresh Kumar of Indian Council of Historical Research, New Delhi, and Professor Pallavi Devi of Guwahati University will raise their voice on the post-COVID countries' higher education in this critical juncture. Honorable scholars, we have observed another pivotal issue that COVID-19 has also broadened the prospect of higher education than before. Besides certain areas in which it needs to bring changes in the higher education, it must be stressed for creative research for which society can be benefited. an increase in technological and vocational education for a large section of our country. At the same time, we cannot avoid that we are living in the era of e-world, e-commerce, e-communication, e-governments, e-security, e-technology, and it has become an inevitable part of everyone's life. Over and above, it is the fact that COVID-19 has struck our education system like a lightning bolt. Hence, we can expect a different kind of educational model to emerge from COVID-19. Respected scholars, we have organized this international webinar for certain reasons. Hence, we have selected 4 renowned academicians. Among them, 1 from European continent, 1 from Southeast Asia, and 2 from our country. Altogether, from east to west and from north to south of the world, we will able to know a distinct idea and to establish a new horizon for our higher education in post-pandemic period, keeping in view of new alternative education of equality, quality, and quantity. Besides how much participants have responded us in this international webinar, it is also not a question at all. But those who have joined, including us, and what we will learn and what will be the benefit for the best interest of the higher education of this globe are the pertinent and focal aspect of this international webinar. Hence, this international webinar is for me, for you, for us, and for them, and for today and for tomorrow. Thank you very much. Again, expecting the webinar a successful one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Principal Sir. You have been always encouraging in such academic endeavors. In your welcome address, you raised concern on the future of education in such a pandemic situation. Principal Sir, in his welcome address, put greater stress on the scenario of higher education throughout the globe. He said that higher education is in the state of transition. And he, in his deliberation, said about, he raised concern about when, where we deliver education in such a pandemic situation. He pointed out the challenges of using technology in education in a country like India. Moreover, he also put stress on the education system of our native state Assam. The native state Assam, which is much affected by natural calamities like flood every year. And in a state like Assam, which is very much affected by natural calamities like flood every year, how the online education will be effective in such a state is a matter of concern. At last, he gave a very positive view on education. In his conclusion, he gave a positive view on education. In fact, he said that this pandemic situation is also, in spite of many problems, it is bringing some opportunities. He put stress on alternative education based on equity, equality, and quantity. And I hope what he said will come up in the future. Thank you very much, sir. And now I request Principal of Nandalal Borgohain City College, Dibrugarh, to say a few words to our respected participants. Please welcome, sir.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, please, sir.
Yes,
Please, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes. Thank you. Conveying a very warm good morning. First of all, let me express my sincere gratitude to each and everyone who assembled here on the auspicious occasion of this international webinar on post-COVID global education, challenges and opportunities organized by IQAC Sinamora College, Jorhat, in collaboration with IQAC Nandalal Borgohai City College, Dibrugarh, Assam. I take this opportunity to welcome our inaugurator, Dr. Suresh Kumar, Assistant Director, Indian Council of Historical Research, Dr. Catherine Mem of Europe, and Du Thu Ha, Professor in the Faculty of Oriental Studies, Vietnam, National University, Hanoi. Dr. Catherine Butcher and Dr. Du Thu Ha are the international resource persons. I convey my sincere and warm welcome to both. I convey my heartiest welcome to our resource person, Mrs. Pallavi Devi, Assistant Professor, Postgraduate Department of Law, Guwahati University. We are all aware that education is the backbone of our country, and also a country's overall progress depends mainly on education. The impact of globalization and influence of digitalization has already made its inroad in the system of education of our nation. We have stepped into the doorstep of innovative technological changes in our educational system. We have just familiarized ourselves with the terms like ICT, blended learning, schooling in the clouds, MOOC, mobile education, self-learning, etc. But an unfortunate challenge came upon us which adversely affected our whole system of education as well as the education system of the entire world. In the face of the present crisis of COVID-19, it seems that the system of imparting education is bound to depend considerably on online education. But in a country like India, the use of online system is not an easy task. For the reason, the use of ICT in India is still a rudimentary stage. Significantly, technological advanced countries of the world have not been facing this situation as a big challenge in continuing education without much hindrance. We may recognize this situation as an opportunity. For instance, we now have an opportunity to practice online teaching with more frequency rather than we did earlier. Online academic activities like webinar have opened a new global platform to us. Though webinars, we can establish contact as well as exchange idea with a larger global economic fraternity. Today's webinar is a great example of this fact because many participants from different parts of the world are assembled here in the same platform for the same purpose. And today's topic, post-COVID global education challenges and opportunities. I'm confident and hopeful that our esteemed resource persons from the 3 different countries of the globe, Europe, Vietnam, and India, will definitely focus light on the opportunities and challenges of education during this pandemic. I hope we can get our important ideas to cope up with this critical situation and to overcome the challenges so that the education system can go forward even in the pandemic situation. Thanking you all as a part of the organizing committee. I welcome you all and wish the webinar will be a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Sanjeevananda Borgohain, sir, you in your address also raised concern on the use of technology in for online education in a country like India. But at the same time, you also said that this online platform has broadened our discussion platform throughout the globe. Thank you very much, sir. You are very encouraging. And if your such encouragement continues, our spirit of doing such academic activities will go up. And you are very cooperative, especially with us. Thank you very much, sir, for your address. So now, let us move to the inauguration of this webinar. So we had invited Dr. Suresh Kumar, sir, to inaugurate today's international webinar. Suresh Kumar, sir, is Assistant Director, Research of Indian Council of Historical Research in New Delhi. He is a distinguished researcher in the field of social science. He is one of the architects of Sangharsh, an association of civil movement for justice, equity, peace, prosperity, and brotherhood in Jammu. Through his association, he successfully conducted many innovative works in that state. As we all know, Jammu and Kashmir was a very disturbed state, and such innovative activity of Suresh Kumar sir in that state is a very welcoming step. He gave a very informative presentation. It is a matter of pride to announce that in our last webinar, national webinar of 1st August, he gave a very informative presentation on higher education. So please welcome, sir, and it is over to you.
Thank you. Namaskar to all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Hello. Yeah.
Yes, you are
Thank
audible,
you.
sir.
So, namaskar to all of you. Yeah.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Morning.
Yeah. So, I extend my warm regards to all who are watching and listening this webinar through different online modes. Dr. Anjan Sekia is kind enough to provide me this opportunity to appear before you with my limited knowledge. So a big thanks to Dr. Anjanji. I also extend my regards to the learned speaker of today's webinar, Professor Du Thu Ha from Vietnam. I met Professor Thu on 2 occasions and found her very humble and intellectual personality. I hope you will be benefited from her research-oriented discourse. My regards are to Dr. Catherine from West Indies and Ms. Pallavi Devi of Assam. Although I don't know them personally, but heard a lot about their academic credentials from Dr. Anjanji, and I think it's a great opportunity for me to listen both these learned resource persons. Before I start, my sincere thanks to the whole organizing team for their sincere efforts in arranging this webinar. It is not possible to take the name of everyone, so my thanks, regards, and wishes to one and all. Friends, this COVID-19 pandemic has given numerous jolts to the world system, due to which we are witnessing rapid changes in lifestyles and at workplaces. The different governments and agencies are forced to make a shift in the traditional way of working. Although the world system has figured losses and damages in almost all sectors, but the major damage that surfaces is in the education and research sector. This pandemic has posed a great threat before the governments, and it seems quite difficult to gain the pace of social, economic, and scientific advancements because all these sectors are connected with the research and education, wherein we are witnessing a kind of stoppage, or you can say a break, hopefully for a shorter period. According to a survey by UNESCO, the closure of schools, colleges, and universities around the world has affected over 87% students. Classes has been suspended and examinations at different levels postponed. The semester exams that were scheduled in May 2020 in universities across the world are suspended indefinitely. And the chain of academic events and the academic calendars are in jeopardized situation. There is a serious threat that this academic year will eventually be shifted by a few more months all over the world. Certainly, the students in the final years of a course will suffer the most. Those midway might see different sorts of adjustments in the next semester. Boston University in the United States, for example, has already announced that it may not resume live classes until January 2021. Several experts believe that the United States may have to endure social distancing measures such as stay-at-home orders and school closures until 2022. So you can imagine the gravity of loss that we have to bear in the days to come. However, in the meantime, digital education has emerged as a clear winner during this pandemic around the world. In India too, universities and other educational and research institutes are trying to adopt teaching and academic events by various online modes, as we are having discussion of this webinar through various apps. And yes, several schools and even private coaching centers and music schools have entered into the business of online teaching. Such engagements may be good for the psychological health of the students who are locked up in homes during the lockdown period, and it's a rare chance for such schools to exhibit how advanced they are technologically, and they are up to grab that business opportunity. However, there is a serious apprehension from different corners that such online teaching might create a digital divide among students, as many have limited or no internet access, and many students may not be able to afford a desktop computer or laptop in their homes. The lockdown has hit poor students hard in India, and about 86% of them are unable to explore online learning, according to few reports. This might thus enhance the rich-poor and urban-rural divide. The main concern, however, is much broader. The future career of millions of students is at stake, as it's already predicted that hundreds of millions of people might lose jobs due to this pandemic. Many Indians might return home after losing their jobs overseas. Hence, our present-day students who are likely to enter the job market shortly might find it tedious task to get suitable employment in near future. Many students who have already got jobs through campus interviews or otherwise may not be able to join those jobs, and a highly shrunk job market along with a crowd of people losing jobs during this pandemic might keep on hunting us for a few years at least, if not a decade. And in fact, it might affect a generation and society as a whole, not only in India, but in other countries as well, that you will listen in detail, most probably from the lectures of Dr. Thu and Dr. Catherine. The shrinking job market might create social unrest. Public universities will be overcrowded in the coming years for obvious reasons, and many private educational institutions whose unique selling proposition, commonly we called as USP, lies in their capacity of placement, might even be shut eventually. Teachers across the country are scrambling to find ways to continue teaching their students in a situation where physical contact is no longer possible. Again, class and social divide play a big role in determining how successful teachers are in teaching school children during the pandemic. Teachers at the country's premier private schools, no doubt, are tech savvy. Most have access to the internet at homes, as well as other digital infrastructure required to craft and share course material. Some of these institutes might even have experimented with e-learning facilities like online homework submission. This minority of teachers will be able to provide an adequate e-learning experience for their students, ensuring continuity. This, unfortunately, is not the case when it comes to the vast majority of teachers in the country. Nearly 1 in 5 primary school teaching position is vacant today. Even in better times, many schools in rural India were run by just a single teacher. According to the World Bank, only half of India's teachers are actually teaching on any given day because of sky-high teacher absence rates. When a large number of teachers don't even teach when schools are open, it's hard to imagine a better outcome when schools are under lockdown. Some teachers may thrive in this new world, but the majority of the teachers will need to upgrade not only their technical skills, but also their teaching resources. In most cases, it will just not be feasible. We have already seen the world without classrooms, but if more and more teachers incapable of teaching in these circumstances, visualizing a world without teachers is disastrous. According to CRY, poverty and availability are major reasons behind school dropouts in India. Poverty, the first reason attributed, is to a family problem. Children who go to school are unable to help their parents in agriculture, and you can say in small scale business like shops, rehadis, etc. This makes many parents reluctant supporters of schooling. It's not clear right now how parents of school children, especially in rural areas, are reacting to the lockdown. Many of them are now unemployed and quickly running out of limited savings, are already in debt. This could mean that when the lockdown lifts, many parents might compel their children to drop out to support the family financially by engaging in different small-scale jobs. As just today morning, I was going through a news report on NDTV where the school-going children are already engaged themselves in daily wages works as a laborer, as their parents are not in a position to feed them. The interviewing parents narrated to the NDTV news channel that if the schools open, they will not send them school as they lost everything and unable to pay the fee, purchase books and uniforms. And this is not going to happen with poor parents only. The problem will also take into its grip the wealthier parents too. They have to help children set up e-learning stations at home, monitor them round the clock, and deal with stress and tantrums. In the case with children in primary and pre-primary, where both parents are working from home, it's difficult for parents to juggle between their own work, household work, and children's online education. Friends, it's not only that students and parents have to face the challenges, but somewhere the school owners are going to see a major cash flow crunch because of the lockdown. Friends, as we know that most of the schools in our country, especially daycare, operate with a monthly fee structure. Due to the lockdown situation, their payments have already been dried up and continue to dry up in the coming months. However, expenses including rent, salaries, and other costs are there. Many education institutions are run as a not-for-profit or generate minimal profits. This means that by and large, they lack the cash reserves to deal with an extended shutdown. Small schools around the country might shut down permanently. School owners will be forced to downsize and renegotiate rentals since this looks like a wash of tears, and the complexities of law through petitions and PILs against schools under these circumstances keep adding fuel in the fire. While the union government and respective state governments have done a commendable job in enforcing the lockdown and combating the COVID-19 crisis, but somewhere the planners failed to analyze the loss in this sector. So far, we are hearing through media houses the directions to the educational institution preventing the managements from hiking fees during the lockdown. The government is taking time to deliberate on a strategy. Having a clear idea of what it plans to do could help educators and school owners around the country. Though some unofficial reports indicate schools may open by the month of October, which would mean a good part of the year will be lost. There is no news on financial support to schools, while petitions and PILs backed by the influential politicians against schools' interests keep growing. The COVID-19 pandemic is hitting everyone hard, but schools, which have always been placed for real-life physical interaction, have been among the hardest hit. As hundreds of millions of students around the world struggle to study at home, it remains to be seen how educators and the sector on a whole will deal with the new learn at home reality. In India, technology solutions to the challenge seems limited at present to the premier urban-centric institutions. But if the lockdown and the education downturns continue, there's a real pressing need for innovators to come up with technologies that can help India learn, especially in the most remote and far-flung parts of the country. Friends, it's very unfortunate and surprising too that not much has changed in this sector for almost 2 centuries. The respective governments kept this sector in cold bag, and I'm of the opinion that maybe this pandemic is just a wake-up call that was needed. However, I'm also positive about the new national education policy announced recently by the Union Cabinet under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister of India. Although it will be too early to comment on this, but let's hope that this will help in improving the standard of education, both offline and online modes, and provide the opportunity to all, especially the poor ones and who belong to remote areas where not much facilities are available. We can also expect the new job opportunities by the implementation of this new education policy. However, this is not time to wait and let the tide pass. but to rise and re-engineer the education sector to benefit all the stakeholders. The COVID-19 pandemic has revealed the weakness and lacunas, as well as also surfaced extraordinary human resources and potential. Friends, mind it, decision made today will have long-term consequences for the future of education. Choices must be based on a humanistic vision of education and development and human rights. The International Commission on the Future of Education's new report, Education in a Post-COVID World, has suggested 9 ideas for public action that can be helpful in advancing education during and after this pandemic. These ideas for the public, for the students, for the school managements, governments, and its agencies. In a nutshell, these ideas are human coordination centric, and what is required is the sincerity in adopting these ideas in letter and spirit, and the execution of the same at ground level. So these 9 ideas that require public participation and action are: commit to strengthen education as a common good. Education is a bulwark against inequalities. In education, as in health, we are safe. When everybody is safe, we flourishes as when everybody flourishes. Expand the definition of the right to education so that it addresses the importance of connectivity and access to knowledge and information. Value the teaching profession and teacher collaboration. We must encourage conditions that give frontline educators autonomy and flexibility to act jointly. Promote student, youth, and children participation and rights. Intergenerational justice and democratic principle should compel us to prioritize the participation of students and young people broadly in the co-construction of desirable change. Protect the social space provided by schools, as we have to transform the education system. Make free and open source technologies available to the teachers and students. Open educational resources and open tool must be supported. Education cannot thrive with ready-made content built outside of human relationships between teachers and students. Nor can education be dependent on digital platforms controlled by private companies. Ensure scientific literacy within the curriculum. This is the right time for deep reflection on curriculum, especially as we struggle against the denial of scientific knowledge and actively fight misinformation. Protect domestic and international financing of public education. The pandemic has the power to undermine several decades of advances. National governments, international organizations, and all education and development partners must recognize the need to strengthen public health and social service, but simultaneously mobilize around the protection of public education and its financing. Advance global solidarity to end current levels of inequality. COVID-19 has shown us the extent to which our societies exploit power imbalances and our global system exploits inequalities. Hence, there is a need for revised commitments to international cooperation and multilateralism together with a global solidarity that has empathy and an appreciation of our common humanity at its core. COVID-19 presented a real challenge and a real responsibility. Although these ideas invite debate, engagements, and action by governments, international organizations, civil society, educational professionals, as well as learners and stakeholders at all levels.
Yes, sir.
Friends, I think I have taken much of your precious time. And today we have to listen to 3 learned and eminent speakers. So, not taking much of time, I open this webinar and invite today's speaker for their scholarly views and have the interaction with all of you. I'm hopeful that they will put together before all of you the subject matter in a very simplified way, and you all will be benefited with their lectures. With this, I take your leave and request the organizers to go ahead with the proceedings of the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your very informative inaugural address. In our inaugural address, you expressed how seriously the pandemic is affecting education by taking instance of USA. However, you in your inaugural address said that digital education has emerged clear winner during pandemic. But the irony is that in a country like India, most of the students did not have the access to this digital education. Moreover, there is problem of infrastructure in educational institutions, and even most of the teachers, especially of primary and secondary level, are not tech savvy. At last, you gave a very positive view on national education policy recently announced by Union government. So thank you very much, sir, for your inaugural address. So now we are moving towards our resource persons. Now, may I welcome our first resource person, Dr. Catherine N. Butcher. Dr. Catherine N. Butcher is an expert in alternative education. She is a PhD from Roehampton University, London. She is a recipient of coveted Marie Curie Fellowship. She has laudable contribution in the field of alternative education in St. Lucia, West Indies, and also in some other countries. As an expert in the field of alternative education, she had visited Assam Rajiv Gandhi University of Cooperative Management in the Sibsagar district of our native Assam. It is very welcome step. So now I welcome Catherine and Butcher, sir, madam, again, and it is over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you,
It is over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Ranju Kumar Barali, Coordinator IQAC, for this very warm and flattering introduction, and a pleasant good morning to all participants from around the globe. Allow me to say how grateful I am to be participating in this international webinar on what I consider a very relevant and timely topic on the theme post-COVID global education, challenges and opportunities. I am happy that the Sinamara College, in collaboration with Nandal Bogohain City College, have decided to host this webinar, and I would like to acknowledge the principal of both colleges, Dr. Anjan Saika and Dr. Sanjeev Vanandan Bogohain, as well as the organizing committee for this initiative. I am proud to be working alongside so many distinguished academics from Southeast Asia and delighted to be on the same panel with my dear friend Pallavi, who I met in Sivsagar during my empirical research in 2015. I also wish to acknowledge Dr. Suresh Kumar, Assistant Director of Research. Now, I will share my screen because I will be doing a PowerPoint presentation. Can you all see?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Right, now the COVID-19 pandemic has brought to the forefront the grim reality of the vast inequality in the global education system and the problems in the funding model of higher education institutions in many parts of the world. It has also accentuated the interdependence of nations. Now, according to UNESCO, by early 2020, more than 1.6 billion students were affected by the closure of schools, universities, and higher education institutions worldwide in 185 countries as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So while many institutions were able to quickly transfer to online teaching and learning, the sad reality is that a large number of students have been unable to continue their education throughout the shutdown period, further widening the inequality gap. This is because these students either have no access to electronic devices, as you have heard before from the other speakers, to participate in virtual learning, or they find themselves in a situation without the use of internet or with an unstable internet supply. A number of universities as well, particularly in the African continent, were forced to shut down due to inadequate technological infrastructure to allow for a quick transition to online teaching. Therefore, the greatest impact of the pandemic has been on higher education in underdeveloped and developing countries, as well as among the most vulnerable and marginalized students who are the most affected. Now, there are definitely some challenges for higher education in a post-COVID era. COVID-19 revealed how limited teachers' knowledge of ICT was, yet many were able to quickly learn and to adapt. One of the biggest challenges is how quickly higher education officials will be able to reduce the negative impact that COVID-19 will have on students' learning. That is, those students who were not able to participate in online learning during the lockdown period of the universities. Also, devising strategies to prevent less privileged students from lagging behind their more fortunate peers. That is, to get students back to the position that they should have been in their learning experience prior to the pandemic. Another challenge is the ability to quickly get all students back into the classroom and to motivate them to continue their education. The virus is still very much in the air, and the fear of parents and students of a second wave is a reality. Therefore, there is need for much reassurances from governments to convince students and parents that it is safe to return to the classroom and reduce the dropout rates. The pandemic has resulted in huge job losses. And while governments in countries like the UK, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain have been able to assist with the furlough scheme, and the World Bank Group has also provided financial support to approximately 100 developing countries to deliver help to the poorest families. These are just short-term solutions, and in some cases, both parents have lost their jobs. Therefore, this will be another challenge to get students to return to the classroom, especially in less developed countries. Just quickly to put the furlough scheme into perspective, the scheme was set up by the governments mentioned above to help pay the wages of thousands, and in some cases, millions of workers who could not carry out their jobs because of the outbreak, and to prevent mass redundancies. Now, the biggest challenge so far for higher education institutions, or more generally, universities, post-COVID-19, is the potential sharp reduction in the income stream. universities have been relying heavily on international students' tuition fees to sustain their operations, particularly at a time when students have been recast as customers. Chinese students form the largest group of foreign students in countries such as the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the US, followed by students from India. Now, should these foreign students now decide to remain in the countries and not travel abroad for their education because of the uncertainties about what is happening with the virus? And remember, there is a lot of finger pointing as to where the virus originated from. So should there be a slowdown in the recruitment of international students, this could result in a huge financial setback for universities, particularly the neoliberalized, marketized universities. Already, it has been projected that UK universities stand to lose more than £100 million. And these are monies coming from international students from developing and emerging countries. While there are challenges post-COVID-19, the pandemic has also presented a number of opportunities for higher education and education more broadly. The first one I wish to highlight is the pace at which a significant number of educational institutions were able to quickly transfer to an e-learning platform. And this provides an opportunity for higher education and the education sector as a whole to transform the teaching and learning or blended learning process to online learning or blended learning. This would allow for greater participation. In any event, it means that education policies need to be revisited. Education officials will want to ensure that instructors at all levels are retrained and reskilled in the effective use of ICTs and education technologies. This is important because we do not know when a similar crisis could recur, and governments would want to ensure that the education system remains undisrupted and that all students, regardless of their status in society, have access to education in whatever form it is taught. So learning from the experiences of the impact of this pandemic on education should serve as a catalyst in enabling governments globally to strengthen the education sector at all levels. The post-pandemic period provides an opportunity also for schools and higher education institutions to be more inclusive in considering more disadvantaged students, more disabled students in the service provision. Thirdly, there is need for a rethinking of the education policies, particularly in developing and less developed countries, if the UN Sustainable Development Goal on education is to be achieved by 2030. Governments, including the international community, must move quickly to ensure that students from vulnerable and marginalized households are provided with free and reliable broadband services to reduce the gap in opportunities and in their education as a result of the COVID-19 downturn. Governments must also commit to providing students from poor households with electronic devices such as laptops, as well as training in the use of the technology to ensure that this group in society is not further disadvantaged but that there is equality for all students in the chances for a high quality education. Additionally, the international community can assist developing and less developed countries with universal internet access within public spaces so that students will be able to acquire knowledge by gaining access to the internet on their devices at any time or from any location. Now, there has been much debate and little action at the level of policymakers about opening up access to universities for students from low socioeconomic backgrounds. The pandemic has highlighted the exclusion of poor and marginalized students. And post-COVID-19, I believe that the time would be opportune for governments to rethink their policies with respect to the funding model of universities and remove the burden of financing education from students, particularly from poor and vulnerable students. The right to education means that higher education as a public good should also be a fundamental universal human right that requires public investment in students. However, the high cost of tuition fees is a deterrent, especially in countries like the UK. The high cost of tuition fees is a deterrent for many students. By making education free, especially for students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, would also mean that students' reliance on employment in order to support their studies financially and the extreme difficulties they have faced in paying for accommodation and other expenses during the lockdown period would not be repeated. If policymakers begin to think of education as a public good and less as cost centers or a private benefit, then the increased competition and markets that are being practiced in higher education will be reduced, and post-COVID-19 will create an environment that will encourage greater collaboration between institutions and the academic community for the greater benefit of students. Now, post-COVID provides an opportunity for a re-engineering of the education system to reflect on the curriculum and the pedagogy in order to make education more relevant to the needs of communities and regions. The traditional pedagogy based largely on neo-colonial beliefs and classroom lectures and theory passed down by instructors does little to help students. A more engaging, holistic, hands-on educational experience in which students are integrally involved as protagonists of their own education should be the way moving forward for higher education. One in which students are able to make greater use of the technology to acquire new knowledge, solve problems, and contribute to their communities. Now, this should not be difficult for academics and students to work together in enhancing students' experiences, because thanks to the pandemic, the academic community would now be more equipped and with skills in the use of education technologies. The final point I would like to make is that the post-COVID pandemic period creates further opportunities for governments and international organizations to positively transform communities by promoting the formation of more community-based higher education institutions, more cooperative universities, higher education institutions from among the social economy to be built in less developed and developing countries. This will keep students and academics closer to home in order to avoid the human capital flight or brain drain from less developing countries to the developed countries, as well as the amount of foreign exchange that students extract from these less developed and developing countries to study abroad in the more developed countries. Having said this, in order to achieve this objective, policymakers in countries like Africa, for example, with pressure from the international community, must make the environment more favorable in order to retain students and for job creation. I thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. You gave a very informative and resourceful presentation on the challenges and opportunities of higher education in post-pandemic situation. And you, in your presentation, put more stress on the problems and opportunities of less developed countries. You rightly said about some challenges which are to be faced in the post-COVID situation. You said that you in your deliberation said that how the first challenge is that how quickly higher education officials be able to reduce the negative impact of COVID-19 on the students. You rightly said that another challenge is that getting all students back to the classroom again. Another challenge is economic impact of households due to job losses, poor students to return to the classroom, especially in less developed countries. So due to pandemic, many households lost their job. Now, thing is that how those households will bring their students back to the classroom. So this is another important challenge. And in case of universities, you said that there is sharp reduction in the income stream of the universities, especially due to the immobility of international students. In spite of many challenges, there are many opportunities from these pandemic situations also, you pointed out. So there is transformation of teaching and learning to online learning and blended learning system. Moreover, to be more inclusive in considering more education system should be more inclusive, considering the disadvantaged and disabled students, especially of less developed countries. And you also said that there is a time to rethink the education policy of less developed countries. So obviously, our present government is bringing up the national education policy. So we hope, so this is a welcome step in this critical juncture. Moreover, you also said that international community must assist developing and less developed countries with universal internet access. And you put stress on community-based higher education institution in less developed countries. So in your deliberation, ma'am, you pointed out many challenges, and along with the challenges, you pointed out many opportunities which we can have in the near future. Ma'am, you are expert in alternative education. So your expertise may help the educational institutions of less developed countries like India in rethinking their education policies and to rethink their pedagogy and curriculum. And we in our institution thinking about alternative education system, and in this noble venture, we expect your help in the near future. Thank you, Meng, for your nice presentation. Thank you again.
Welcome.
And now, let us come to our second resource person. Our second resource person is Dr. Do Thu Ha. She is professor, Faculty of Oriental Studies, Vietnam National University, Hanoi, Vietnam. It is a matter of pride. She obtained her master's and postdoctorate from Center for Historical Research, Jawaharlal Nehru University, India. She has extensively worked on India and honored with Asia Fellows Award by Asian Scholarship Foundation under Ford Foundation Fellowship. She is also a recipient of Ananda Kumaraswamy Fellowship. She is a visiting professor of many universities, including Princeton University, Montana University, USA, Kolkata University of India, Chulalongkorn University of Thailand, and many other universities. She authored near about 18 books, and she has a number of publications in international and national and international journals. So please welcome, ma'am. It is over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so honored to be invited for this conference.
Ma'am, it is over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I listened very attentively to first speaker. And I think that my way to continue a little different. I will talk something very practical about the situation in Vietnam so that you can withdraw some suggestion for your teaching and studying. I think that COVID-19 is a crisis reveal a new world. I think that you know that in the field of global governance, the COVID-19 crisis appear first of all as a crisis of anticipation capacity by the international community. And also, you know that it's a challenger to all the domestic management in our country. Talk about education post COVID-19 epidemic. I think it changed our point of view and our approach for education forever. In our country, I have to say, maybe you know that Vietnamese people, very famous with you know, some characteristic. We think that if we have to find 3 words to talk about Vietnamese people, first, is very hardworking. Second, very flexible and energetic. And the third, we are very optimistic. So I think that I will talk in something is brighter for our future. Yes, I don't think that complaining can help us. We have to find out the solution. We have to find out how to adapt to the new environment to go forward. Our country, up to now, as you know that after for a long time of war, right now we have only 3% of population under the poverty line this year, recognized by UN. So I think that why we can do like that? because we're very hardworking and we're very optimistic and we are very flexible. So I try to prove this through this talk. The first, that we are very lucky as a teacher in Vietnam. Why I say like that? Because to Vietnamese people, education is the best investment for our future, for our children. In our country, the government also recognized very clearly, and they try to do the best for that. I can say that, for example, like our life is not easy. For I myself, we have to teach since 7 a.m. in the morning and continue to 9 p.m. every day. Of course, not every day we have to work like that, but it means that in the university, all the day long have someone to study. And we work since very early morning to late night. So when the epidemic burst out, at first we are little, scared. For example, like a teacher, that they discuss a lot that how to continue. We stop it, teaching for 2 weeks and continue with a new system. How? First, because I think that in our country, we frankly don't believe in Chinese words. The Chinese government, they talk that the epidemic is not very serious, and WHO, they didn't announce the epidemic. But we have, that during the time of 2000 years, we have 213 wars. And among them, we have 172 war with China. That's right, when they talk that it's not serious, but have something in Wuhan, we close the border at once and start, click up our, prevention in health organization all over the country. That's right, the first wave of coronavirus epidemic, no one in Vietnam died. And we know that this one maybe can last for a long time. That's right, that we start to divide the students and pupils in school and university into many groups. Nursery school stay at home, cannot go out. Secondary school, primary school, wait for 1 month to look, to see what happened. And high school and students in university continue studying. And after 2 weeks, we know that the situation is very dangerous. We stop teaching in university and school. We study at home. The government start with one budget of $80 million for enhance, the digital system for the study. And in Vietnam, as you may know, Vietnam is the fourth ranking in using mobile phone. We teach in the website, and we teach, e-learning. For example, in my university, we have a 15% e-learning before epidemic. That's right, we just widened the using. And then for students staying at home, we know that many, because the people in countryside, in our country, no problem. But for example, remote area and mountainous area, we have to use the house of culture for every village for them to study. It means that we can use the system of the government to support for students. No need for them to buy the device. It's very dangerous, because if we want every student and papers have something like a computer, I think that it's impossible at once. And even for long term in some country. That's why we used the system of the government in the village for students. And also, for example, like a student in my university have 82% from countryside. That's why they are not very rich. Even a lot, for example, like in my faculty, we have 800 students, but among them, 120 have to get the support from the government for poor students. That's why that we still keep the campus in quarantine. Yeah, in quarantine. It means that we support for students to stay inside the university with good, system of internet and computer. They can study, but they no need for us to go to the university to teach. In fact, I have to say to you that it's difficult first. I think about 30% of professors and teachers, they didn't want to join in the e-learning system, because they complain that it's very difficult, and they couldn't follow the process and system because very complicated or something, and then difficult for them to do it and live up to the standard. We organize online many classes for our teacher and students who want to learn how to use the digital system to teach and learn without any fee. And even me, for example, I use a lot, but first, I think about the first 7 weeks, I didn't want to join because I think that it's difficult. So I use email, Zalo, WhatsApp, and then also, that we discuss with students and do many things together. But at last, I found out that the digital is very useful and very effective, and I came back to the system. We ended the academic year in time. And just 4 days ago, we finished the entrance exam for our pupils all over the country. 97% of students who had applied before joined the exam, and only 3% couldn't join because the second wave of virus corona came, and then they have to wait for some time to join the exam. So this one, I have to talk to you that what happened here is that we have to find out the way how to solve problem. We cannot just, complain and wait for the government or something like that. In our country, the student, so they talk to me that, Professor, I feel that learning by e-learning very, very good, because I can contact with you, talk directly to you personally. Before, in very big class, I couldn't dare to ask you a question, but something like that is very good. You talk to me, you write to me on mail and do everything. And I think that is very good. And something, in fact, it's some kind of challenger with us, because if students study at home, everyone at home can observe us. I can say to you that, I teach about comparative between Western and Eastern civilization or something like that. And then, so many people call me and text to me that I like your, lecture, and then I want to ask something like that. And to me, it's really is difficult, because I feel that everyone can see me, and especially, the lecture on the website recorded 100%, and students can revise it, can study again and again, and they told me that they know it very well. Before that, it's difficult. Yes, very, very difficult. So I think that this thing is very, very good. And even right now, that I think for the administrative staff, it's a big problem, because they have to do a lot. They have to work very hard, and they have to wait for the fact that, everyone can ask them anytime, even they stay at home. So to me, I think have, the people right now, they think that have 9 prediction for our, future. And among them, something I think that is very useful for education. They talk that will be more contextless interface and interactions. Second, they talk that strengthen digital infrastructure will be good, and better monitoring using IoT and big data, on enable drug development, telemedicine, more online shopping, increase the reliance on robots, more digital event, and right in e-sport. I think, among 9 gradation, at least we have 6 useful our teaching. For example, like about, that e-learning, or like digital event like us today, or right in e-sport for our students, and then like strengthen digital infrastructure. To me, I have some suggestion for our cooperation. I think that right now we can have a cooperation to teach for our students. In fact, Vietnamese students even Vietnam is not very rich country, but they stand, they rank 8 for students in America and in many other countries. Every year we spend 2.5 billion US dollar for study abroad. So right now we can have a cooperation to learn and to teach together. For example, like, our students no need to go out. And right now they can study at home. They save money for their parents and for their future also. And at the same time, we can have a very good cooperation to work together. Something like that. I think that it's very, very important because no one knows what happened next in the future. Maybe the epidemic lasts for a long time. And then maybe another epidemic happen. So we have to prepare for our future is that we never, give in any difficulty and obstacle. I think that we can complain, of course, so tired this time, but we have to try to find out the solution for the best of our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your very informative and insightful deliberation. You, in your deliberation, very rightly said that education is the best investment for nation building. And you, in your deliberation, said how hardworking the teachers in Vietnam. You also said how Vietnam fight this novel coronavirus and how you fight the adverse effect of this pandemic on education system. And your efforts, your country's effort is a big lesson for us. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again. And now we move to our third resource person. Our third resource person is Mrs. Pallavi Devi. She is assistant professor in the Department of Law, Guwahati University. She is one of the emerging researcher in the field of law. Before joining Guwahati University, she was the faculty member of Assam Rajiv Gandhi University of Cooperative Management, Sivsagar. And as a researcher, she has many publications in national and international journals. And now I request Pallavi Devi ma'am to start her presentation. It is over to you.
Thank you. I'll share my screen right away. So can I start? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. You can start.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me begin by thanking Principal of Sinamara College, Dr. Anjan Saikia, and also the Principal of Dibrugarh NLB City College, and also the organizing committee of Sinamara College for inviting me to speak in this international webinar, Challenges and Opportunities in Higher Education. So I'm very delighted to see Dr. Ju Thu Ha, and also delighted to see Dr. Catherine Butcher, whom I met during my stay in Sipsagar when she flew from London to Sipsagar all alone to collect the primary data for her research. So I hope, Catherine, you have not forgotten me, and today it's like I'm very like highly delighted to see you here. I have been allotted 15 minutes to speak on this theme, so I'll be very brief in my presentation. Most of the important aspects has been covered by Dr. Ju Thu Ha and also by Dr. Catherine, who have spoken about the pros and cons of this pandemic and how this pandemic will have challenged the present education system. So, long before the onset, 1 minute. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible. Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. So there is a hesitation. So so there is a hesitation among the students that if there are doubts, they are reluctant to stand up and clarify they're reluctant to stand up to clarify their doubts. I'd like to cite an example to strengthen what I am saying. Because I have not been awarded my doctorate till now. But since I'm a faculty in Guwahati University, many young students who are doing research or who are in the first year of their research, they come to me to give them an idea how to search their topic. They do not know they do not know, or they are not taught, or the syllabus that is practiced in our education system is such that we are not taught about the steps that is involved in research, how to frame a title, how to design the research framework, or why the framework is so crucial, how to draft the research problem, and how to convert the research problem into research questions. These are very fundamental. questions while doing research. These are very fundamental questions while doing research because the theories that we have learned, because the theories we have learned in our classes, there is a relation there is a relation that these theories we must be able to convert into praxis, but really we are unable to do in the very beginning. So I can conclude, so why should I not conclude? Of course, subject to correction, that we are unable to ask ourselves the very fundamental questions like what, why, how, what if. There are many more examples to strengthen that there is definitely a lacuna in our education system. So I say in the beginning that we really need to rethink our traditional education system. During the pre-pandemic time, we were very reluctant about digital learning. But during this pandemic, we have seen that it is only the digital learning who is leading the surge as a mainstay with a multidisciplinary approach and with a modular pedagogy. Voice audible?
Yes, your voice is audible.
Because technology deceives. I'm devoting one slide to the migrant workers, because these migrant workers are really a homogeneous class across the globe. Now look at this picture, and the one in the left-hand side, where you will see the administration is giving a chemical bedding to the migrant workers. These migrant workers, not only in India, but across the globe, they have faced the multiple crises. They have faced the most hardships because the factories were closed, their workplaces were shut due to nationwide lockdown. They faced really loss of income. There was food shortages. Family went hungry. Thousands began walking to home with really no means of transport. Don't you think that this attitude that the administration has given to the migrant workers of giving a chemical bathing exposed their mentality while dealing with the poor? And the flip side of this coronavirus is that they have really exposed the central government and also the state government, along with the employers, that when that they have left their employees during this crisis to be they have left their workers with impunity. They have really left their workers with impunity. We should not forget that India is a signatory to the 6 core human rights covenants and also to the 2 optional protocols, to the Convention of the Rights of the Child. Also, India is also we should not forget that under the human rights law, government are obliged to take steps to prevent threats to public health and also to provide medical care for those who are in need of it. Even under the Indian Constitution, we have the directive principles of state policy, where the state is obliged or where the state has to secure a social order for the promotion of the welfare of the people. But yet we find in reality that the migrant workers, they are left in a limbo without jobs, income, and access to health. The second picture was in the right-hand side is also very, went viral in the social media, where 16 migrant workers were run over by goods train. These migrant workers were were of the opinion that since there was a nationwide lockdown, there will be no train, there will be no running train. This is the kind of education, this minimum education. We also talk of elementary education, but they do not have, they're incapacitated to have their thinking process on. That's why they slept. And this COVID-19 or the corona, this pandemic has really given insights what is lacking in our present law, or how can we revamp the existing laws. It is not necessary to have so many laws in books when it is not practiced or when it is not followed by the executives. Now, coming to the theme of this webinar, the pros and cons. The spelling is a mistake here, PROS, the pros and cons. I have cited 5 pros and only one cons, challenges. Now, online learning is here to stay. This is for sure that online learning is here to stay. But the issue or the challenge is that to develop a robust online platform, which has become the most necessity thing to do right now, in a country like India, where there is a vast disparity in socioeconomic background and also a disparity in the educational institution, the shift will really not be easy. This digital divide, where most of the speakers, including Dr. Suresh Kumar, have also spoken that this digital divide has been further widening the gap. This topic was also emphasized by Dr. Anjan Saikia, where there is an attitude of the administration to divide the gap, not to abridge the gap, but to create the gap more and more. So the second point is, this point has also been emphasized by Dr. Catherine, where more Indian students is likely to stay home in India. As per reports, India is definitely the second largest source of international students in the world. But during this pandemic, this usual exodus is likely to transform to an influx into the Indian institutions because of the health risk and the travel restrictions. But the opportunity is that India can retain these students in their own country. While definitely international, the foreign universities will definitely bear the brunt of this change, but this is definitely an opportunity for India to enhance its capacities and other quality education at par with the global standards. The third is, post-pandemic will see a blend of e-learning along with face-to-face learning. Like the Vietnamese people, we are not so particularly, there are many new, there are private universities who are really doing good in building infrastructure, digital infrastructure, but let us think of those public institutions where the digital infrastructure is really poor. This kind of these public institutions where the digital infrastructure has not come, they will see the post-pandemic time will see a blend of e-learning along with face-to-face learning. Also, there will be a greater collaboration between students, academia, and industries. Let me take the opportunity here to mention about the virtual law school. India's first law school established by Dr. Nachiketa Mittal of New Delhi. Law education, legal education is strictly prohibited online. But because of this coronavirus, because of this pandemic, even legal education, there is the virtual learning in that platform. And that is and it is doing fantastic job in imparting legal education to hundreds of students not only that people who are well connected or who are in that particular city can connect, but it can really transcend the barriers. The only challenge is that the economy has really taken a severe hit, and it has created ripples in all sectors. And education sector has also felt its ripples. Of course, public institutions are under a threat of reduced funding. But on the flip side, this pandemic could also prompt reform, infrastructure, creation of the most cost-effective programs. Moving away from the traditional pedagogies in most average institution, definitely the demand for quality education will shape the way higher education moves forward from this crisis. Post-pandemic is really a wake-up call. This is all about what I have prepared to say. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Pallavi ma'am, for your brief but very resourceful presentation on COVID-19 opportunities and challenges. You rightly said that in this COVID-19 situation, the online learning is here to stay. In fact, we all know that previously we are organizing this in-campus seminars and conferences, but today we are organizing webinars, we are doing online classes. So online learning is here to stay, you rightly said. And you also said, you rightly said that new trends in teaching and learning will emerge and global collaboration will increase. And at the same time, you raised concern on the shrinking global economy. Obviously, it is a great concern for all of us. Every economic activities are shrinking. Shrinking economic activities are affecting each and every sector of the economy. And in the next few years, government and all other concerned institutions has to play a vital role in this regard. Because if economy is sound, everything will be sound. Thank you, ma'am, for your nice presentation. So now we are coming to the conclusion of this webinar. Participants has asked a few questions. So due to shortage of time, it is not possible to take all questions. We will take 3 or 4 questions. And my first question goes to Dothu Ha ma'am. My first question goes to Dr. Dothu Ha ma'am. So ma'am, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So my first question is to you.
Yes.
One of the participants asked, how in Vietnam the rural students are involved in the digital platform of higher education? What is the role of government in this regard?
It's a very good question, because as I say to you that in Vietnam, the number of students from rural area is very, very big. For example, like my university is Vietnam National University. We have 70,000 students, postgraduate. And among them, 82% belong to rural area. But we are lucky that, you know, that the number of students that receive the support from the government. One is that, as I said to you before, Vietnam is ranked the 4th in using mobile phone. We use mobile phone to study a lot. when we, for example, like teaching or doing exercise for our students, something like that, they can write down and then take a photo and send us through WhatsApp or Zalo in countryside. In the city is okay. And as you know that because in Vietnam only 3% under poverty line, that's why that the number of students who has a good divide to study is okay. And the government, as I talked before, that they relieve a grant of 80 million US dollar at once when we have to close our university and school to support for strengthen the digital system. And they support and they provide computer for the house of culture in every village for students and pupils to study. If they cannot have at home, they can go to the house of culture to study with good internet connection. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am, for your answer.
Thank you.
Now, Catherine, ma'am, are you there? Okay. Okay. Catherine, ma'am, you in your presentation said about the challenges and opportunities of this post-COVID higher education in basically in less developed countries. But one of the participants asked that in developed countries also, there are problems of education during this COVID period. So what are the nature of problems in case of education faced by developed countries, and how those problems are different from that of less developed countries? It is over to you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. Thank you very much for the question. Yes, developed countries also have their own problems in education because of COVID. For instance, even here in the UK, you have a number of academics who are already losing their jobs in different academic areas and so on, subject areas. Maybe the business schools are the ones that are more successful and recruiting, but a number of academics are losing their jobs. There are a number of students who are out of schools as well, similar to the developing world as well. What is happening in the UK is the government is trying to bring students back into the classroom by September. But we know that the COVID-19 pandemic is still very rampant in the UK. So there are a lot of concerns from parents and students as well about how this is going to work out, having students back into the classroom and so on. We still have the problems where there are students in the UK, in those developed countries, who cannot afford an education because there are a lot of poor students in the developed countries as well. Similar. So the same situations that persist in the developing countries, we have them even in smaller clusters here in the developed countries, such as the UK. So these are the issues I think government probably could step in to assist those less developed or these underprivileged students in those developed countries. Yeah. But I think unemployment is one of the biggest challenge in the higher education system now. And of course, getting to train the academics in the developed countries as well in the use of the technology and how they should go about now post-pandemic to be able to deliver safe tutorials to students. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. It is obvious that the problems of education in the post-COVID period is not same as in Europe or in Vietnam or in India. So that's why this question are asked by one of the participants. Thank you, ma'am. So now, next question goes to Suresh Kumar, sir. Suresh Kumar, sir, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the our principal, sir, is asking this question. The question is like this: can government higher education institution survive in the long run as the private institutions are emerging very rapidly? So this is a question from a principal to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think your principal, sir, loves me a lot. That's why every time he has a question for me. So thanks to him. And yes, you are very right. And there is a lot of competition between the government sector and the private sector. And private is advancing much than the government sector. That's why there is a need of government agencies needs to come up, you can say, with the investments and the policies to strengthen the infrastructure of the government school, colleges, and the universities. Because what we are seeing right now, that the government institution, they lack the teacher, they lack the infrastructure facilities, they lack the, you can say, the traditional libraries as well as the internet access. And if the government will not improve the infrastructure and the internet access in the government schools and the universities, sure, I think within next 3 to 5 years, we are going to lag. So there is a need of improvement, and I'm hopeful that the union government has recently, you can say, declared this new national education policy. And in this new national education policy, government will try to overcome from these lacunas. Hello, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I think Anjan sir will be satisfied.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It is very much true. Today it is a time of survival for fittest. Those who are fit, they will survive, and those who are not fit, they will be wiped out.
That's right.
So obviously, to compete with the private institutions, the government-aided institutions or government institutions have to re-energize them, and they have to reorient them. So obviously, thank you very much, sir. So now, the next question is for Pallavi ma'am. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. So the question is, what are the legal complexities in implementing online education system in India, and what are the remedies of those complexities? This is a question for you.
Can you repeat once again? Can you repeat the question once again?
Okay. What are the legal complexities in implementing online education system in India, and what are the remedies of those complexities?
What are the legal complexities in implementing the online education? So, the people's attitude towards online education or distance education was not very acceptable before this pandemic. It's only recently, a year back, when the Supreme Court has declared that distance education PhD or master degree has equal value to that of the regular course. It's very recent, maybe in 2019 or later part of 2018. Now, since when the acceptance is so conditioned that when there is no full acceptance, the policy also revolves to to what people's or the larger section of the society reflects. Policy reflects larger masses' ideas. It's a reflection of their thought process. So legal complexity was there because there was no acceptance. There was no full-hearted acceptance. Law itself does not create a prohibition, or law itself does not create a restriction. So because of this pandemic, the online education has taken the surge. Digital, it's only through the digital connection that we are connected to each other. We can see that there is no other alternative. So people are accepting the online education at par, which the attitude has changed in this during this pandemic. The remedies are talking to the remedies. There will be many remedies, but primarily digital to build an infrastructure. Digital infrastructure, lot of money, financial things is involved. If OP Jindal in Panipat, if they are spending crores of money to build up their infrastructure, digital infrastructure. That amount of money is not available with public institution. The physical infrastructure is so poor. Forget about the we are compelled not to think about the digital infrastructure, but because of this situation, government have to invest money on building the infrastructure, where public sector, private sector, there must have a collaboration so that there is a give and take, there is a quid pro quo. Of course, quid pro quo is a legal term where where give and take. There must be give and take. There must be collaborations between the public, private sector, and also the industry. So there lies the remedy itself. I hope I have attempted.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. So there are many other questions, but due to shortage of time, we cannot take more questions. So now we are coming to the conclusion. So before vote of thanks, I would like to announce a thing that we are going to publish a booklet on this international webinar. So I request all our resource persons to send their presentation to the email of our principal, and those presentations will be compiled in a booklet in the coming days. So I request all our resource person to send their presentations to our principal's email. Thank you. So now it is time for vote of thanks. I request my colleague, Runu Bora ma'am, to give vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ranju sir. Namaskar. Honorable inaugurator, esteemed resource person, and the participants. On behalf of IQAC, Chinamara College, Jorhat, and IQAC, Nandalal Borgohai City College, Dibrugarh, it is our opportunity to convey our thankfulness to all of you for making our international webinar a grand success. In this context, I have no words to express our gratitude to Dr. Suresh Kumar sir for his valuable cooperation with us. At the same time, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to our ever respected resource person, respectively, Madam Dr. Catherine N. Butcher of London, and on the expert of alternative education, Madam Professor Dr. Do Thu Ha, Faculty of Oriental Studies, Vietnam National University, Honai, Vietnam, and Madam Pallavi Devi, Assistant Professor, Postgraduate Department of Law, Guwahati University. Similarly, I have also conveyed our sincere honor to our Principal Sir, Dr. Anjan Soikia, who always encourages us to endeavor creative work. In fact, our Principal Sir is one of the distinguished scholars in the field of social science. We are lucky enough that he is also PhD examiner of 3 leading universities of India. I am also thankful to IQAC Nandalal Borgohain City College, Dibrugarh, the Principal Sir of Nandalal Borgohain City College, for assisting us in this international webinar. I am also thankful to all the members of our college, participants from different nook and the corner of globe. I am conveyed our thankfulness to Prabhupada Soikia for cooperating us technically for arranging this online platform. At last, I also expect all possible academic cooperation from our esteemed scholars in the days to come. Thank you all. Thank you so very much. Have a nice day. Thank you.
So is it over, sir?
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Is it over?
Hello.
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 So can we exit?
Yes. No. Oh, yes. You can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.